from our politics and our country for good.
Graham Morris.
Thank you very much, Mr Deputy Speaker, and I do appreciate the opportunity to speak to new Clause 2 and Amendment 34, and I would also like to thank all of the honourable members who have co-sponsored or signed the clause. It does indicate quite extensive support, not just from the Labour Party, but all across the House and from a variety of parties. I feel I must declare my interest as a member of the RMT Parliamentary Group, and I refer members to the Register of Interests. I think this is really a very important clause. It's important to UK-based employment in the maritime sector. It is an issue that's been raised with the current Shipping Minister, the Honourable Member for Witney, who I may say is really quite sympathetic to the arguments that we're making, and previously with his predecessors, and most notably the Honourable or Right Honourable Member for South Holland and the Deepings, who was really quite enthusiastic with what we were proposing. The current Clause 25 of the bill currently makes tonnage tax more flexible for ship owners, but with no corresponding adjustments for seafarer jobs in skills based here in the UK. It's so eloquently pointed out by my honourable friend, the member for Thurrock. The tonnage tax's original proposal, I might say it was introduced by a Labour government by Gordon Brown, was to arrest the decline in training and employment opportunities for British seafarers in an increasingly deregulated labour market. And we've seen the increasing dominance of flags of convenience. And if I might just remind the Treasury bench, at the time of the Falklands War, which is unbelievably 40 years ago now, there were 45,000 ratings and officers in the UK. That's British-based ratings and officers. And today that number is below 23,000. And it's just about a quarter of all seafarer jobs in the UK industry are UK-based. But the bill doesn't seek to improve the mandatory link to train officer cadets or to create a separate mandatory link for the training of ratings. The Comprehensive Spending Review Red Book that we refer to commits the government to, and I quote, explore how best to make use of existing powers regarding the training commitment. But I understand from discussions with the maritime unions that this process, which I may say for the information of the Treasury bench is being taken forward by the Maritime and Coast Guard Agency, is not considering any specific measures to train British ratings or to employ British seafarers, including those who are trained on the tonnage tax vessels. And I'd like to point out this is a real wasted opportunity. If there is to be a Brexit dividend, we really must address this issue. And maybe it's a case of the government, without taking action or perhaps inadvertently damaging the UK maritime sector, but there is an opportunity to put this right. And as such, new Clause 2 would require the government to review the impact of Clause 25 on employment and training on tonnage tax for British officers and ratings, including the effect of changes to flagging arrangements on qualifying ships. I'll happily give way to my honourable friend.
I thank my honourable friend who is making the case with extreme persuasiveness. Would he agree with me that one of the difficulties we have here, and perhaps why the government is missing the opportunity, is that this is one of those areas where government policy is siloed, in the sense that he's absolutely right. The Minister for Maritime at the Department of Transport gets this complete and is very sympathetic. But the decision-making capability rests with the Treasury. And does he think that this is where we really need to get government together to get the right outcome for everybody involved in the shipping industry?
I'm grateful for that intervention, and of course the Honourable Member is absolutely right. And here, what we're proposing isn't revolutionary. It's common sense, it's joined-up government, and it's an application of a principle of trying to ensure that the growth that is predicted in the maritime sector, particularly in relation to zero carbon and the offshore sector, that there are benefits for British-based seafarers. I mean, this is a particularly important point, given that the government is seeking to use Clause 25, or could be, to attract more flags of convenience into the tonnage tax scheme. Tonnage tax is a kind of a tax break, Mr Deputy Speaker. It's already provided £2.165 billion in relief from corporation tax for UK and international ship owners. And in truth, as I mentioned, it's a very modest amendment, and that the real measure required to boost seafarer jobs and training, including in some of our most deprived coastal communities, I might say that includes mine, Mr Deputy Speaker, would be a new mandatory link to ratings training as well as to officer cadet trainings, as advocated by the ratings union, the RMT. But I'm not proposing that, that's beyond the scope of the bill. And can I just say very, very quickly, Amendment 34, which is linked to it, seeks to provide the Secretary of State with the power to consult maritime trade unions over compliance with environmental safety and working conditions on non-UK flagships in the tonnage tax scheme. And that would be consistent with the minimum standards on seafarer safety that I know everyone in this House would seek to support, and is part of the Maritime Labour Convention, to which the UK Government is a signatory, along with all other maritime nations. I know time is short, Mr Deputy Speaker. There's a little bit more I could say, but in the interests of moving progress, I shall leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. I rise to speak to my new Clause 7 for an